Hello and welcome to my third story I have done on this channel. This is the story of Kapple's backstory as told by Arilon. Let's begin. So you've been running around pushing gods to tell you stories. Personal stories at that. How much did you get for Virgs? 9 million. No, billion. Where did you get money for that? I guess you weren't wrong. Royalty does tend to have such funds. Now, Miss Kapple's passed. Why wouldn't you go to her? She'd love to share. So other fates protected her. Understandable. My daughter and her girlfriend are rather protective of their young sister. No, I'll tell you. It's just, it brings back some memories. Have a seat. The floor isn't very comfortable, is it? Follow. There. Something far more suiting for a queen such as yourself. Now, can I get you anything? You're procrastinating. Impatient people get left for the longest. Young queen, I wish to treat you with respect and care, but as you wish, we can begin the story of Kapple Wilo, the young Dakuma fate. Well, to begin such a story means beginning with her older brother, Crispin. Crispin was born 7 years earlier than Kapple. He was a favorite of his father. Ezekiel saw Crispin and wanted to make him just like himself. Wear his clothes, in my opinion, he was a disgusting man. I know Crispin never told me such, but I have no doubts in my mind that Ezekiel did unspeakable things to that poor boy. Chris has always been this timid boy, so I don't believe he ever spoke out or got upset. I do know Moise, his mother, as well, was a very close friend of mine, was his best friend. He was her little shadow. Even when Moise ended up conceiving Kapple, Ezekiel was furious, he found out, because all he wanted was a son and never a daughter. Chris adored his little sister, though, from the beginning. Although I don't think he understood how frail she was. Kapple had complications in her birth. Moise nearly perished while giving birth to her. I remember being called to her side, reminding her it would all be okay. Ezekiel wasn't even there. He was busy. Kapple, as she grew, her skin and her bicolor eyes were the first thing anyone ever saw of her. Some would say she was beautiful, and some would say she was cursed. Ezekiel was one of the ones who disliked her. He didn't even give her a room. She slept under a stairway in the cellar. Kapple never minded it, but even so, it was terrible. She always loved to see how the servants would come down for their daily routines. She became rather close with one of Moise's assistants named Lotus. Kapple always viewed her as like a big sister, almost. You alright? Yes. After about 3 years of Kapple's life, the fated war began. It caused a lot of tension in the Wilo family. I remember Moise begging me to take Kapple and Crispin, but being I was also a soldier in the war, I couldn't. If I knew what was about to happen, I wouldn't have left her side and her children. Chris has always told me how he tried to break up the fight between his parents, but he also remembers being locked out of the room. He remembers banging on the door and crying before the door opened a little from the damages that was being taken. Then a bang, seeing his mother crumble to the ground. He says his father tried to grab him. He said he just knew he couldn't let that happen, so he ran. Found his little sister hiding in her bed, picking up the toddler, and then running again. The entire palace of the fated realm was in chaos. He felt everything was breaking. He wasn't even aware of what exactly was happening. That man, Ezekiel, has just shot the Queen of the Fates in the head with her own sacred weapon. More so as the goddess of time, the carnage that took place after her death was unbelievable. Crispin, he's a strong kid. He found a small opening that dropped into a tear in the realm, and without hesitation and fear, he held his sister close and jumped. He didn't even know where it would lead. He told me it felt like they weren't falling. They were just stuck between realms till there was a flash of silver, and both Kapple and Crispin smashed through the trees into a small, shallow stream. Kapple was mildly injured, while her brother, on the other hand, was less fortunate. Chris had lost his left arm up to about the elbow and broke many bones. Even then, he tried to force himself to stand and get Kapple to somewhere safe. And how do you know this? I was there, or, well, a part of me was. I haven't explained much about this, but every crow or raven I can use for my eyes. I was watching them, looking over them. Crispin kept walking till he literally couldn't. He had lost so much blood he simply fainted. Kapple knew immediately she had to do something. She ran around screaming, always then going back to Crispin, trying to use her hands to stop his bleeding. Eventually, Kapple's commotion worked. A woman from a nearby village came. Miss Von Hove, or Mizara, as well as multiple guards and the lord of the village, Clarice. Mizara was the first to spot the Tolman children, and when she did, she didn't even hesitate. She ran over and began healing Crispin. Kapple watching hopeful, even when her brother finally reopened his eyes. That's when she finally spoke. Kapple had been delayed in her life, unable to speak nor learn, due to how her life began. For a normal 4-year-old, they would always be able to, so having her speak was amazing to see. Her first word was actually yay, and it was so cute. Seeing her say it over and over again, hugging her brother. Mizara and that village known as Hayden actually ended up taking them in. Mizara being a single mother to them, while her husband, Tabero, more commonly known as God of the Sea or Poseidon, who was also fighting in the war. Mizara was an amazing mother to them, always so caring and understanding. Kapple gained attachment to her rather rapidly, while Chris, on the other hand, took his time, but he eventually came around. Mizara loved to speak about Tabero to them, telling him stories and answering their many questions. Both children at this point had viewed Mizara as mom. Kapple was a very curious little thing. She wandered off more times than you could count, until she wandered up and made a friend, her first friend. I find it so odd that such a small child would befriend someone like Chiron. At this point of the meeting, Chiron had just been exiled and left to perish, completely mutilated from his deeds. Even so, Kapple did what she could to save him. Once she helped him, then Mizara and Chris began to do so as well, and then eventually the entire village began to help. Kapple was the type of person who always wanted to help people no matter who they were. Kapple got very close to Chiron by helping him. Chiron even began caring for Crispin as well, helping Mizara with care. Chiron was like child number 3 for Mizara, and she couldn't be happier about it. Kapple turned 8 when Mizara's husband finally returned. Tabero was terribly, terribly injured in the war, and fearful of everything. I remember that he threatened Chiron with a dagger when they first met. Poor man comes home from war and finds his wife has adopted 3 kids, basically. Kapple was once again taking on the role of being emotional support kitsune. Mizara caught her curled up with Chiron and Tabero whenever they were upset, as well as always being at her brother's side when they were out. They were one big happy family. Chiron and Tabero made a good team helping the village, while Mizara, Crispin, and Kapple were always assisting the villagers as well as helping the Lord make alliances. So even when Chiron eventually was called back, they remained close. I know Kapple was deeply saddened by the loss of her closest friend, but she was also understanding, as she always has been. Not much notable happened with the siblings after that. Right. Around the time Kapple turned 12 was when Lotus, one of the assistants of now departed Queen of the Fates, Moisa, came back to ask for Kapple. She wished to begin training Kapple to take a similar role as in Fate as her mother Moisa. I swear to Bear almost killed Lotus for wanting that, but ended up negotiating that Kapple become one of the three Fates. Lotus would assist in creating Fate, Kapple would wish to help with dispersing it and working the middle ground workings of it. Well, they had continued to look for a third Fate, one that would be the one that ended it, cut the thread, etc., whatever you call it. When that was finally decided, Kapple had turned 14. The thought of letting Kapple go hurt Crispin, but he didn't ever want to have his sister leave as well. But by the age of 21, that Crispin was, he was mature enough to know it was for the best. Crispin mostly ended up giving Lotus an earful of how to properly care for Kapple. Kapple, despite being afraid and anxious to leave her family, agreed because, once again, she wanted to help people. She knew she could if she went along with this plan. Anything else? No, other than after a year of Kapple being chosen was when my daughter, son, Kaosi, was chosen to be the one to cut the thread, finalizing what is now called the Moray, or the Three Fates, Nona, Dakuma, Morta. The trio is known by many other names as well, but that's unimportant. Does this help in what you wish to learn? Yep. Alright, now please leave me alone. As much as I enjoy your company, I'm too old for you. What's that supposed to mean? Hello, again. Welcome to the end of the storyline. Woo! As you probably can tell, this story was a lot shorter than the other two. Mostly because, well, there's not really much to cover with this character, Kapple, and Crispin. The one who holds more of the story with the Kitsunes and the Fates would be Moisa, which, if people are interested, I will do that story. Thank you for listening if you get this far. I'm mostly trying to drag it out so you guys can watch the rest of this one speed paint, but at the same time, I'm not really probably going to let you finish it. If you really want to go see the speed paint, just tell me. I really don't care. Well, thank you for watching as always. And yeah, I have no idea. Have a good day. Goodbye.